Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Podcast LifeCast, episode 40. Man, I don't know if I'm starting to regret my promise to have a LifeCast episode every month. When I initially thought, I was like, that's not gonna be that long, and that much, right? It's not gonna take that much effort. But life kind of hits you in the face, and you kind of get busy. So here we are, podcast episode. It's just going to be me today. I've only done this one other time, and I think it was on the episode I watched No Time to Die. I don't think I had anybody that was able to join me on that podcast. So this is just going to be me chatting in a room today. We'll see how this goes. As promised, I did finish season 4, season 5. I forget what I'm on. I did finish the end of The Boys, and I have thoughts. I have changed my mind a little bit, but I think all in all, it's my thoughts are fairly similar, but different cadence. So we'll get into that. But first, small talk with myself here, I guess. There's a new show as I was launching Prime, to check it out. I saw a new show called The House of David. Now, this actually looks really interesting. I've subscribed to the dailies as well, and the dailies mentioned it as something that potentially you should check out. House of David, essentially, it is the story of David in the Bible. I'm gonna read you a synopsis here because it really does look interesting. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there seems to be, and continuing to be since The Chosen, this influx of Christian content that seems to be taking the world by storm, and every studio seems to be wanting to get a little piece of that action. And so House of David seems to be getting in on that. So I'm definitely interested to see how it's going to be, if it's follows closely with the actual Bible and the storyline that goes there, if they take creative liberties, and if those creative liberties, this is the preface of the argument here, this is the big caveat, if it changes the meaning of the story in the Bible. That'll be the biggest issue I have. For example, a good example of this is the Prince of Egypt. The Prince of Egypt took some creative liberties in the storylines, but the essence of what the story is about still points to God being the person who saves the Israelites, and the moral of that story and the moral of the story in the Bible still coincides with each other. There's no major difference. Kind of same thing here with I'm hoping with the House of David, it doesn't change too much of the actual meaning that we've got going on here. So, brief synopsis here I've got on my phone. House of David tells the story of the ascent of the biblical figure David, who becomes the most celebrated king of Israel. So, exciting to see that. Obviously, it's a story of Goliath is in there. That was pretty evident in the trailers. So you've got Saul, Samuel, Jonathan, all of the there's the Bible characters seem pretty spot on. So Ross, if you are listening to this, I would love to watch that with you as maybe a little bit of a different different watch than The Boys. So we hopefully will start watching House of David. The first 3 episodes are out, so that's pretty cool. So Ross and I will probably next month have some of that to talk about, and I'm crossing my fingers and hoping for the best, because The Chosen is really good. I do like The Chosen. Same thing there. It took some creative liberties, but the moral, it's not there to delude or contrast from the Bible. It enhances that story. So interested to see how that goes. Me and Ross will hopefully be reporting back on that next episode, as well as I saw Brave New World. That was going to be my initial podcast for this with Ross for this month, but life slaps you in the face. I went on a work trip and I just lost track of time. It's the last day of the month. It is the 28th, and this will go out directly after I'm done recording. So, anyway, moving on from that, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of Brave New World. No spoilers. I'll give you just my 2 cents on that film, and then we'll move on to The Boys. Now, overall, I liked Captain America Brave New World. I think it is the best film in the Marvel franchise, Phase 5. So I know it's going to be really hard to beat everything leading up to Endgame. There's such a cool narrative. And I think the biggest gripe people are having right now is the idea of nothing matters because there's the universe is pretty much expansive, and there's the metaverse. So when you establish that there is infinite timelines and that there's infinite possibilities, and therefore there are infinite Kanes, for example, infinite Captain Americas, infinite Black Widows, there's the idea that you can just, nothing actually matters because you can just bring back people that have lived that exact same timeline, but one little thing changed about that timeline and split off the universe. So you have the idea that you could just kidnap someone and drop them right into the main timeline, right from where it left off, and ultimately nothing matters. And ultimately, you're not dealing now with the so this was the big problem with the Eternals too. I had this conversation as we were leaving the theater. So every time a Marvel came out with a film, at first they were all leading up to something big, right? Endgame. That's what it was leading to. Now what they're trying to do is their movies after that are all trying to up the ante. You know, when you're having a debate with somebody, you tell a story and then all of a sudden someone else has a story that just seems to be a little bit crazier. And then someone else has to butt in and there's to be a story that's a little bit crazier. That's exactly what's going on with Marvel right now. There seems, starting right after Endgame, I liked the TV series. I think the TV series were really starting to head to set stuff up. I liked the Black Widow show. I liked Loki season 1. I have not seen season 2 yet. And that's a time thing, not because I don't want to. All of those shows were great. But then you hit Eternals, and Eternals was suddenly like, the end of the world is nigh. And it's like, well, we know you have 7 freaking films of Marvel planned in the future. So you're not going to kill the universe, and the heroes are going to win. That's not great storytelling in that way. What Marvel movies are trying to do now is they're always trying to up themselves and make the stakes higher. So when the world is at stake, suddenly that doesn't become good enough for what they view as for what they think people are looking for. Suddenly timelines themselves have to be on the line, as we kind of saw in Deadpool and Wolverine. Though I liked Deadpool and Wolverine simply because it was funny and Ryan Reynolds is hilarious. Unfortunate with all the lawsuits and crap that are going on right now. And I really couldn't tell you the first thing about it. I just know it's drama. But what do we expect out of Hollywood at this point? But Brave New World, really good. There wasn't any political pandering that I thought was going to be happening. The Boys definitely has some political pandering. I'll get to that. But they handled the politics of it really, really well. They set out to tell a story. They didn't set out to cause a disruption and to, I'll say it, just put out a woke agenda. That's a lot of the problems that people are having with Hollywood right now. And if they're on the right and if they're on the left, it's not woke enough. So Hollywood's in this weird limbo where they're trying to please multiple different audiences. And ultimately they can't, right? It's impossible to please both sides of that issue. I'm going to try not to get too much into it, but it's the problem that Hollywood has to play, and somehow they have to. Yeah, it's tough. It's just tough stuff, and there's a lot of crap that goes down in Hollywood that not great. But I digress. Here's the tall and short of it. They handled the politics in Brave New World really well, and they handled I liked Harrison Ford's character. I think his character was really well written, and I think he played it really well. Um, Ross and Joya came out of the theater. I went with, I think there was like 6 of us that went. They came out of the theater and like, or Caitlin said this too. They were like, I was kind of expecting more out of the ending. It was kind of anticlimactic, but the storyline itself leading up to that, it was a great arc. They handled it well. One of my favorite lines came from Captain America, previously Falcon. And he's like, and the president, who is Harrison Ford, he was basically like, listen, dude, we disagreed, and yet you still helped me even though you knew that we disagreed. And Captain America basically said, like, if we're already at each other's throats, everybody loses. Um, and I just think that's a really powerful message, and I think that was actually speaking more to um, what actually was a beneficial message. It got very preachy towards the end of Falcon Winter Soldier. I liked that series up until the ending where it got really preachy. There was some really good kick-ass scenes, but it got really preachy towards the end, and then it was like, why are we saying five? You need to fix yourself, Senator. It's like, all right, well, yeah, you've lost half your audience and you've pissed people off. But yeah, I think they really balanced Brave New World better this time. The best Phase 5 Marvel movie that I've seen. So, I don't know if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is in Phase 5, but that one wasn't bad either. It's right up there with it. I like Brave New World better personally. I actually remember Brave New World's storyline. I don't really remember much from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So, anyway, I digress. I just wanted to put that out there, give you my 2 cents on that. Ross may have some more things to say. He really liked it because it had warfare, the fighting and the planes and the ships. There was actually like good warfare that makes a lot of sense. So, you can ask Ross about that if you know him. But I'm going to give my quick thoughts on The Boys. A second to last season. The next season, which probably won't come out till for 2 to 3 more years, that's going to be the final season. So it's wrapping up. Thank goodness. They're really dragging this out. But I'll give you my thoughts. I'm going to give a trigger warning, and I'm going to give a spoiler warning. Trigger warning because there is some nasty stuff that happens. I'm not going to describe it in detail, but I'm going to have to use words that might conjure up images. So if you don't like that, don't listen. And also, I will end up talking about sex at some point, I think. So, and I will be using the R word, so be warned of that. Just putting that preface out there. Just want to make sure you guys know what you're listening to. So, anyway. So, I think me and Ross did not have a complete vision of what was going on last episode. We kind of, honestly, we didn't have a full vision of what was going on and where they were going. So it seemed like everything was one-sided, but all of a sudden at the end, these last 2 episodes really just like there was a 180 shift, it seemed like. And maybe it's because I was entering it with a different mindset when I was watching it. I don't know. But basically, there was one of the main themes that I want to bring out that I saw in these last 2 episodes was the theme of family. So Mother's Milk had a dichotomy where he wanted to leave with his wife and daughter, and they were going to go to move somewhere, and they were going to peace out. They didn't. Mother's Milk had a altercation that left him having a panic attack in the middle of a fight and in the middle of a mission, probably the most important mission of the season, because it would have had implications if they had pulled it off properly. And they kind of did. But and that was basically his end all. He's like, listen, my health is deteriorating, and if I die, that leaves my family in jeopardy. And so what he's doing is he looks at his wife and he's like, I got your plane tickets. I'm getting you out of here. You're going there. And his wife at first convinces him to leave with him. And Mother's Milk is like, all right, yep, I'm going to leave. And if I can't protect my family, I'm a failure. Um, and I think that points to really good father figure morals, if you will. The desire to protect your family is probably one of the best blessings that a man can have. So, and I'm a big fan of the fact that they shown a little bit light on it, especially in the era where our society is saying that family ultimately doesn't matter and that you are your own person and you can make your own decisions and that family has nothing to do with it. So, I hope that's as political as I get, but I'm not hopeful. But when you're talking about a show that is making very political statements, I may be reading into this wrong, and you know what? That's okay. Leave your comments and you think I'm wrong about this. But anyway, Mother's Milk, he's like, yo, I'm leaving with my wife, and then suddenly A-Train shows up. And I don't know, I think we'll see more of A-Train in the end, and I think he's gonna end up dying in the last season. But he has had a really cool character arc as well. He went from murdering this whole series started because Huey's girlfriend at the time was murdered by A-Train, and boom, that just set off these whole series of events. But A-Train then is now been leaking information to information. They've been leaking information to the boys, and of course that's all part of Sage's plan. Sage has this weird thing where she has a bunch of knowledge, and she basically is the I don't know why they're doing this, but she's basically like God. It's weird because like she is the end all know all, and I know that's going to have limitations, but it has had zero limitations the entire season. The only thing that was holding her back was the fact that Homelander's a douchebag. Homelander didn't trust her. Homelander throughout the whole season was like, I don't need to be loved. I don't want family. I don't want to be burdened by love. He viewed love and family and everything like that as a burden that was holding him back from his desires. And I think there's something prophetic about that to a certain extent. But it's weird. Eventually he runs into and finds Starcracker, Nutcracker, what's her name? Whatever. Firecracker. That's it. She's been taking pills that are making her sick, but they help her produce milk. And so she worked her way up by producing milk for Homelander because that's his weird thing that they finally brought back. So exciting. But yeah, so she worked her way up through that way, and then all of a sudden Homelander was disgusted, like in love with her. Like, man, just when I was giving up on love, like he didn't love her in the sense of he loved what she provided, not her herself. And that's seen when she starts coughing, and he kind of turns a side eye to her and sees her as decaying. And then Sage's plan at the end, she's basically like, I held up my end of the deal, and we got what we wanted despite you trying to mess it up. So anyway, all that to say, A-Train basically shows up at Mother's Milk's house, MM's house, and he's like, yo, you can't give up now. Just because you can't just run away. Ironically, we'll come back to that because eventually A-Train himself actually just ends up running away. He tries to take Ashley with him. I don't know if there's some love going on there. I don't understand what's going on there. But A-Train basically gives Mother's Milk the kick in the boot. He ends up ditching his family for their safety, and he's like, if I'm with you, it's bad. Can't be doing that. And basically A-Train's argument is like, do you think this is just going to be like stuck in America? This is going to be worldwide, and then what? Then what are you doing? You can't hide anywhere. And so that gets Mother's Milk involved, and he's like, all right, I at least have to try to end all this so my family can be safe. And I would love nothing more for him to have a happy ending with his family at the end, but I just don't have faith that that's going to happen. But that's the kick in the ass that MM needs. And stuff happens, yada yada. Um, Later on, going with the theme of family, um, it's the beginning of the last episode or the beginning of the second to last episode. I don't remember which, but I think it's the second to last episode. Basically, Homelander's son, I forget his name, but he's sitting on a Vought Kids TV show, and they're singing about like if you see it, report your parents and stuff like that. Basically, like anybody could be part of the enemy, part of Starlight's thing, and basically they're like turn in your family if you know they're being bad. But he stands up and he's like, "Yo, why are we preaching that we are against family? Your family is the most important thing you have." Um, and it's really cool that he recognized that, and that comes into play later when Butch and Grace have him cornered in CIA headquarters. Butch's son or Homelander's son, depending on how you view it. But they're basically like, listen, we need you to kill your dad. You're the only one who can do it. They expose all the things that, all the bad things that Homelander did to him. He's in denial. He's freaking out. And then he's like, wait, you're trying to use me exactly the way Homelander is being used right now. And that kind of wakes him up, and he escapes CIA headquarters, and that causes Butch to give in to that voice that's been inside his head, that's been nagging at him. Butch has been trying to do, in my opinion, the right thing, but now the voice in his head basically said you need to cause genocide of all soups. So Butch is going to be duplicating the virus, I'm assuming, and he's going to be trying to increase its powerfulness so it's able to kill Homelander and cause a spread of disease. So basically what they said, if you create a virus or an anti-V that is able to kill Homelander, you have to make it more powerful. And if you make it more powerful, it will be a global pandemic. So Butch goes rogue at the end. He gives in to that voice, and that giving into that voice seems to make him stronger. I don't know if he's still going to be struggling with health issues, but once he gave into that voice, he had superpowers. He had like tentacles that came out of him, and it was really weird. I don't know if giving into that voice is making him stronger and not sick anymore. So we'll have to see where that goes. Butch has gone rogue, so that's going to be interesting. I'm still a big fan of Komiko and Frenchie. They do eventually kiss and fall in love. And that brings me into another theme that is going on, as it seems, is forgiveness. Now, I'm not talking about the biblical sense of forgiveness, because I don't think this show fully understands that concept, and it's a very earthly view of forgiveness. But I digress. I think as a general theme, forgiveness is a good word to cause people to think about, whether it's a little bit flawed or not. Basically, it's learning to forgive. Frenchie needs to learn to forgive himself. Early in the episodes, Frenchie turns himself in, and he's like, I couldn't live with all the guilt, and I felt like I wasn't a good person. And yeah, okay, all right, none of us are good people, but and he wouldn't let anybody come to him, talk to him, be with him, not even Kumiko. And so Kumiko learned to forgive herself and to move on, but she was trying to get Frenchie to move on with him. And they share a scene of a kiss, and she finally says, in a more non-direct way, basically says, I love you. And he realizes that he loves her too, I think. So they shared a kiss, and it's kind of the last. There's still a great duo. I think Kumiko is one of the best written characters in this series, and she forever will be. Just what she brings to the table, and whenever she's in a scene, it is silent. And I think that's really powerful. I know she can't speak, and that's the point. But they really do. There's sometimes not even music over the stuff she is saying. They truly just let you sit in what she is saying, and I think that's a really, really, really powerful thing. So I kind of like that. I want to use that in a film at some point because that's really powerful. I have a lot of notes. The use of silence. A-Train convinces him to stay and fight. A-Train, going back to that, tries to convince Ashley to come with him, and he basically runs away. A-Train's gone. He dips after he just convinced MM to not do that. So he still kind of seems to be selfish in that way, but maybe he's going to come back. And I think he will come back in the final season. Basically, this sets up the end. So this whole thing was setting up. Homelander wants to murder the president. So VP, I'm forgetting her name, who is a soup, can become his puppet as president. Basically, Homelander wants a puppet in the office so he can do what he wants. And the VP, I'm forgetting her name, basically, Homelander exposes her as a soup in the middle of an interview. And she's like, you realize that if your plan goes through, you have to arrest half of the United States that disagrees with you. And I think that was pretty spot on to the state of our country right now. If you know, you know. If you think about it, yeah, just the way the political divide is in the United States, and the assumption that because you disagree with me, we cannot associate. Kind of a bad theme, but they did have they had a warning label at the beginning of the episode, and they're basically like, "Yo, like this is going to be very similar to events that are happening in our time. We do not promote any of the ideas that are showed in The Boys." So basically, they're trying to certify the election to get the president, or the soon-to-be president, and the VP, soon-to-be VP, into office, and eventually, the VP dies because Butcher murders her, and the president is arrested because he said the words, "You should have taken out the VP when I told you to," or something. And so basically, he's arrested for conspiring to kill his vice president. And so that leads, I think the next in line is the Senate Minority Leader, who basically calls, maybe it's not the Senate Minority Leader or Majority Leader. Basically, the next person in line is in the pocket of Homelander, pledges his allegiance to him. And so basically now Homelander has unfettered access to government. So he's basically able to become a dictator and do what he wants. And that's been his goal for this whole thing, because he thought the VP was going to be that for him. But then Sage was basically like, no, she was too stubborn, too much of a problematic person, that it is better the way I have it now. I worked effortlessly to get you what you wanted. And then Homelander is basically like, but I threw you out for garbage. And they basically have their make-up moment, they made up, and Sage basically gets back to power and good terms with Homelander. So that kind of sets up the next season. I don't know, man. I'll watch it, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out at the end of the episode of the TV show, which I'm not remembering its name, but those people finally come into play as the boys are splitting up and trying to escape, because basically Butch murdered the vice president elect, so they get blamed for it. Butch, obviously, he goes and does his own thing. He's shot up with V right now, so he's fine. And those students from the TV show basically come into play, working for Homelander, it seems like. But we'll see where that leads. And I didn't mention this, but basically, as they are staging their government coup, Homelander is, he has a hit list of everybody who needs to die because they know too much. Ashley is on that list, of course. She hears this and she goes and shoots herself up with a V. So now Ashley is V'd up and she will be probably playing a significant role in the next one. Whether that be she pledges her allegiance to Homelander and tries to help him, she turns to the boys, she looks for A-Train, or she does her own thing and kind of becomes a thorn in the side of Sage and Homelander enough to give the boys an in, whether she knows it or not, or whether she works alongside Homelander directly. Seems like Ashley, as a character, is here to stay. So yeah, basically, that's all I really had. I had a long series of notes, but I'm not going to read them all. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening to me yab about the boys, and we'll see. We'll talk about it in a couple of years, I guess, on and just see how it goes, I guess. But Oscar nominations, as my final talking point here. Oscar nominations are this Sunday. So if you're listening to this on the 28th, it's in a couple days. On February 28th, it's in a couple days. So, right now, leading the pack is Anora. I think it is the front runner in most of its categories. Conclave looks hopeful, but The Brutalist probably might get one or two. But I think the film to watch at the Oscars is going to be Anora. The front runner was suspected as of a couple weeks ago. It was Amelia Perez. But Amelia Perez, one of the actors, apparently tweeted some very racist stuff, so that's been canceled, and Anora came up as a front runner. So I have been keeping up with a lot of the news surrounding this on both sides of the aisle. People like Vanity Fair, all the way to more right-leaning people on this. And most seem to be saying that The Brutalist might overperform. We'll see. That's my prediction, at least. I think The Brutalist is going to overperform. I think Anora, I think it'll do a little bit under what everyone's suspecting. I don't think it's actually the front runner. And maybe I'm biased because I haven't seen any of these except for Conclave, unfortunately. I haven't even seen Wicked. I think Wicked might do well too, but I am crossing my fingers that Conclave gets a few episodes or a few more awards than everyone's predicting. I liked Conclave as a show. I watched it with my boss, actually, but I really liked it. It's shot really well. The politics of it is what it is. It just shows to me how left the Catholic Church has really gotten, which is unfortunate, but is an interesting story. Really grasped your attention, my attention, and I'm hoping it gets some awards and at least overperforms in that way. So, all in all, interested to see where the Oscar nominations go over the next couple days. I will be in the midst of a film festival, so I am participating with a ton of my friends. We actually have a team of 6 or 7 this year, compared to the 2 that we had the last year. But if you'd like to follow that, it's a 54-hour film challenge. It ends Sunday at midnight. So I was going to take a nap when I got home to prepare myself for the little sleep I was going to get this weekend, but then I remembered it's the last day of the month, and I promised a podcast episode at the end of every month. So, keeping my promise here. So I'm going to go now. I'm going to go prep for that film, for the film festival, or for my film challenge. And thank you guys for listening. And be sure to follow New Peter Productions on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram right now. You'll be able to keep up with the 54 film festival chaoticness that is about to ensue. So, of course, follow Saucium. Make sure you click that like if this is the first episode you are hearing. Make sure you click the subscribe button, press that like button, and let me know what you want me, if you have anything you want me to review for next month. Hopefully I will have Ross on next time, and Caitlin's been asking for an episode, so maybe we'll have a conversation with Caitlin as well. So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.